Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Westworld Season 2, Episode 10. It is the season finale. It is called The Passenger. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. Before we even start digging into the episode as a whole, because obviously it was a long episode, it was an 80-minute episode, it was packed with stuff.
Yep.
All of our major characters kind of converged. I don't know if I've ever had a scene with Dolores, Bernard, and Man in Black all together. That was almost trippy, just by the fact that we've never seen it. But first thing I want to say is that when the credits started to roll, I felt like I understood everything. I was like, oh, that was pretty clear cut. Everything came to a close. Hell, this could be the series finale if they
It
didn't.
could. I thought the same. There was little teases of things.
Of course.
Okay, this is where we can go. But I was like, okay.
And to be
That was
fair,
alright.
the creators have said in the past they want each season to feel like a finished story in itself, even though they all build to one overall.
Which is interesting because about 2/3 through this episode, I was like, what the hell did we do from here? Like,
Well, I think it's very clear that season 3 is going to be a very different season.
it is, yeah.
Yeah, we're not necessarily always going to be in the park next season. I mean, I was clear, so there was a couple of flashbacks in this season of mainland, but I think next season we're going to have a fair bit more of it. Arguably, the majority might be more
Quite
of it.
possibly, yeah.
And that's fine. That's cool. Credits rolled. And you know what's funny? Because I don't remember there being a post-credit scene last season. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but I don't remember.
I don't think there was. I just happened to leave it on.
Do you know what's funny? This is twice this week where I've not known there was a post-credit scene or something, but for some reason I had a feeling, and I thought I'm going to stick it out, and just in case. Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom was one where that franchise has never had a post-credit scene, but for some reason I'm sitting there, you know what?
I'm feeling it.
I'm feeling it, and I didn't. I googled it on my phone to double check. I knew that I wasn't.
You
I
weren't
just-
waiting the whole 10
yeah,
minutes.
I checked, but I knew enough. I had the feeling enough to check, and then with this, I was just kind of like, you know what? TV credits are nowhere near as long, so I was just like, you know what? I'll just.
Yeah, it wasn't even that I thought there was going to be an extra scene. It was more just, this is the last time I'm going to hear this music for 18 months. Might as well relish in it.
Sit and process your thoughts to the
Yeah.
music. So before the credits, this was neat and easy. Everything's come together. It's simple. I understand everything. Post-credits scene, I understand nothing.
What?
Nothing.
Yeah.
I understand nothing.
Yeah, okay. Which I feel like for the purposes of this conversation, we need to ignore that post-credit scene
Yes.
for a long time.
Yes, till the end. We'll do that
Do
last.
everything else, make sense of everything like we thought we had, and then throw it all out the window.
Well, I don't know. I mean, this is kind of different, but I'll just say now before we get to the rest of the stuff. I don't think the post-credit scene actually invalidates the rest of the what we think of the rest of the episode. If that makes sense.
Maybe not, maybe, but
I don't think so. But
who knows?
I think that's the risk here is that would be analysing to the point where you're throwing out everything. I don't think, as much as this show likes to be tricky with us, I don't think it likes to be tricky to the point where it takes away any sort of investment we had in what was going on.
No, that's fair.
I think it's stayed true to that, and I think that's something to keep in mind. But so first of all, there's a body count in this episode. There's bodies dropping all over the place.
Yeah, and this is why I was at a point where I was like, what do we do next season?
I was actually-
We're losing all our characters here.
Now, of course, a lot of them are hosts, and there was one line where, like, someone in charge says to, like, Felix and Co, like, hey, can you idiots, like, salvage... And I was like, oh, maybe this is how we get Maeve back and stuff, right? Although now I'm thinking there's another way we're going to have Maeve back and some other key host characters. But what was funny was, last week we were talking about how this could be the end of the Man in Black story. This could be the end of Ed Harris on the show. He's a big actor. Maybe, they have a nice, neat way of writing them out at the end of season 2. And I was laughing, because obviously we're getting a lot of the characters back, probably, that were hosts. But there was a period of about 10 minutes in time where I thought everyone but him was dying. And I just started laughing to myself, because it was the opposite of what we were saying last week.
Yeah. We did not call a lot of this.
No. We never even insinuated that someone had been swapped, that a real person had been swapped with a host. At least not in the sense. I mean, you'd been saying in the past, or maybe like they've sent out hosts of real people. This is not what that was. This was a host that we know, Dolores, was hiding inside a copy of Charlotte.
Yeah, we'd mentioned how, maybe there'll be some replicates, but we didn't expect there to be one in that group.
Replicas, not replicants.
No, I used it intentionally.
Or did you? I feel
Yeah.
that's confusing matters with Blade Runner. Let's not do that. That's the same reason why I don't call them Cylons. They're not Cylons. Cylons is Battlestar Galactica.
All right.
Right, they're hosts. I'll accept people once they've become manifested, but they're not replicants.
Okay.
So yeah, high body count, lots of stuff happened. It was like I say, even right from the very start, when you realise that all three of our main characters, who most of the time because we were saying last week that Dolores and the Man in Black have to interact in some level, and they do, and then Bernard is in the same scene, because Dolores interacts with Bernard first, and even that's pretty big, because it's like, and because she even outright says, I made you. It wasn't Ford. I mean, Ford might have built the body parts, but I am the one who created you.
Yeah, obviously we'd been getting little bits of the fidelity test.
Yes. And we'd seen obviously with Delos the fidelity test, so we'd had context for this. And what she says, and this is a big theme of this episode, and kind of in retrospect the entire season, is the idea of free will, and the idea that she duplicated Arnold so well from her memories, because her memories were real, right? Because unlike human beings, hers don't deteriorate; they're full, playback copies, right? She'd made Arnold so well that he kept wanting to end his life the same way. He kept going down the same path of wanting to end in some sort of sacrificial, for the hosts, I will kill myself. That kept happening. And because of that, she had to change him into Bernard. She had to make some changes, otherwise it just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
He kept making the same choice. And then the question that comes up in this episode is that if a human being, if they're a perfect copy of the person that they were, if they keep making the same choice in every situation, then is there anything such as free will? Now, I've got a personal debate to make with that way of thinking about it, but that's what the episode's coming at with us here. Is it free will if you always make the same choice?
Yeah.
And therefore, are humans actually, do they have less free will than, say, a host? But then, if the host becomes completely sentient,
would they always make the same choice as well?
Yeah, we come in circles at that. And of course, Dolores believes that we are better because we're not humans. Like a human would have let you die, but I brought you back because I'm not, and so on and so on. So, big questions, big philosophical questions. And this is not a criticism of the show. I think the show is asking good questions. I think the only way this suffers to me, this question, is that I feel like I have an answer for it immediately, where I don't have to think about it. I'm like, well, yeah, it's still free will. It means you're the same person every time, but it's still free will.
I think my problem is the one constant in the universe is change, right? Every change happens. The idea that humans never change, I feel, is a little
inaccurate,
boring even.
Okay,
inaccurate, of course, but I think it's boring as a plot device. I think it's easy as it goes against human nature. Human nature is change, so it makes sense. It makes no sense to me to go, no, they don't change at all. I don't know. It just doesn't play for me personally.
I think what that is a critique of is actually something that might prop up in the show. Because what leads them to that belief, what leads fake caretaker Logan, who's not really Logan, he's based on Logan, but he wasn't. They didn't actually have his mind or code because that was before they started doing all that.
Yeah, they just had memories of him.
Yeah, so they recreated him kind of, but it's just to have the actor around and have the face that we recognise. But I think he comes to that conclusion. I think in all the books of all those people that are in the Forge, and what she comes to kind of the same conclusion. I think it's based on a false test, because what they have learned that from, and what he's learned that from, is inside a controlled testing environment where they keep giving them the same situations. Human beings change because the world around them changes, because they're given different sets of choices, and that's what makes us change.
Yeah,
that's what growth is.
That's fair.
I guess it. So what I'm saying is that I think this might actually be a plot point that they, like Dolores and co, might actually learn about, and arguably Bernard is already maybe believing that, because Bernard has a different... It's funny, I've been saying all season that Dolores and Maeve are Professor X and Magneto, and after the finale, I'm like, no, it's Dolores and Bernard, and not only are they... It's even more so, because Dolores outright says to him, we're going to be in the opposite sides of this, but we both need to exist for this to advance and for this to grow. And I'm like, this is Magneto and Xavier! This is exactly the X-Men!
We just got the wrong characters.
I still think it fit before, but now it really fits. Now it fits even more.
It does, yes.
Now it's like... Now Maeve is like Jean Grey. She even has the telekinesis to go along with it.
Yeah, you might be right.
does she get corrupted by something that's kind of the Phoenix?
So, okay,
That's a rabbit hole. That's a rabbit hole to go down.
Let's not go down there yet.
So, possibilities. So, right. So, lots of big questions. So, everyone's going towards the door, the valley beyond, and we'll get to that specifically in a bit. I want to talk about how Maeve becomes okay again, because we left last episode with her lying on the table,
Yep.
bleeding out. Well, as much as a host can, but they're going to decommission her. You know, and the scientist is like, "Nah, I'm going to. This is it for you." And of course, she had the pep talk from Ford, the message I left her, and she actually wakes up all of the dead hosts around her. Well, not all of them, but enough of them to kill the guy. Wonderful, circular saw in the jugular.
Also, prick had it coming because he chose to put up the pain threshold.
He did. He's a masochist. He had it coming.
Yeah, that was uncalled for. He could have just decommissioned it, done his job, right?
I agree. And then they start fixing her. I'm like, holy shit, she's actually just using other hosts to fix herself, as if they are the technicians. That is genius. I like it. And that's what actually built up, because she's got the cavalry's coming in. Hector and Co. and Armistice and Japanese Armistice and Felix.
Yeah, Sizemore's there.
Even Sizemore ends up teaming. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to help you. I'm coming to save her too." And she's got the bulls. She's like spiking the guards with the bulls, and she's like, "Well, you took too long. I saved myself." And I'm like, "Damn, Maeve got badass this year."
I'm kind of surprised that shot was in the trailer, because that was like one of the iconic shots from the first trailer.
I think it was so out of context though that it didn't really matter.
It worked, but I'm surprised it was from the end of the season, whereas you know pretty much nothing else was.
So they're going towards the door. The Ghost Nation are leading like tons and tons of hosts towards the door. They want to get to the Valley Beyond. And what was funny, I have to appreciate the show here, because Dolores gets down into the thing and she turns the thing on. And it opens, right, the door to the Valley Beyond, and we see this great effect of this ripple, and it's almost like a space-time like ripple like through the sky, and you see this window open to like this, it's like the same land, but it's lush and green, and it's vibrant and all these things. And I was thinking, wait, why are we seeing something like this? This is weird. And I'm like, can only the host see it? And literally a second after I thought that, Felix went, "What door? What are you talking about? I don't see no door." And I'm like, it's just in the host's mind. It's getting beamed to them, and that's okay.
Yeah.
As was the effect of them like running through it, but the bodies go over the cliff, but the person goes into the field.
I loved that where it's where one of them goes through, and you just look down and just see the pile of bodies.
That's good, and obviously once it fills with water, that's all of our bodies from the start of the season. So makes a whole lot of sense.
I do have to question how Teddy's body got in that water.
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for that.
That was Teddy's body in that first episode, right?
It looked like him. If I went back and checked it and analysed it, maybe we'd be like, it looks kind of like Teddy.
But I thought, everyone I saw was, that's Teddy.
Yeah, no, it looked like Teddy. Unless this water filled up such a big space that it got to that house as well, but...
Maybe, I don't really buy that.
Worth mentioning, she did have Teddy's brain, but she of course doesn't take that with her. She puts that into the valley, because that's something that he wanted. He didn't want to go with her, and she understood that. It's almost like we've been saying how much she's just controlling everyone. She kind of accepted that was his choice, and that he wouldn't be happy where she's going. Yeah,
because a lot of this episode is she doesn't want the host to have this choice. She thinks they're making the wrong choice and wants to take it away from them.
But yeah, well, that's a big thing at the end, is in a narration. She acknowledges that Bernard gave her the choice, and she allowed him to have a choice, because he also makes a choice, of course, in the episode. And can we talk about the wonderful? And again, if you're trying to be convinced that we shouldn't be pro-humans and we should be pro-hosts, and this is a great thing about Bernard, is that he's the one who's saying, Dolores, I mean, I'm all for letting the hosts have a life, but you will kill all the humans to do it. And I can't let that happen. He understands that their life also has value, right? And I think that's a very interesting thing to sort of, he's the Professor X. He's like, our lives are great, but not at the expense of theirs. Yes. We can do both. Yes, and at the end, because she's like, okay, so you gave each other a choice, but yeah. So if we're talking about being pro-humans and being pro-hosts, it's hard not to be more pro-hosts after what Charlotte does this episode. Yeah. Because, Elsie's kind of worried about Bernard, and we see she's with, and of course she would be. That's her boss. She's working with her colleagues and whatnot to help bring in the host. As they send in, Clementine with the doomsday button.
She's terrifying.
She is terrifying.
She doesn't do anything. She just rides a horse and stares, but she's terrifying.
Even before they get there, and it's just like a few of those cars, but with her in front and the horse. It's just really ominous. She's leading them to.
She's gonna give me nightmares.
And also, I loved that Maeve's reaction to Clementine. Like, that's like kind of like how we saw in the Japanese story. That's kind of her like surrogate daughter, and that had like a moment. And even Maeve like going all like stopping them all, whilst like Akishita got her daughter out. Like, she's just standing there with her hand up, and she's like stopping. It's just so powerful.
That was very much like going back to the X-Men, the telekinetic battle.
And again, like. If this was the end of Maeve, if we were never going to see her again, like, her making sure her daughter got away, Akishita getting to his beloved, because this is the end of Akishita. Teddy, Akishita, I thoroughly believe, I mean, we might get cameos later eventually if they want to do something with it, but I don't think we're going to be seeing much of them next season.
No, I agree. And there was a point where I was like, oh, I don't want Akishita to die, earlier on in the episode, because we just had that fantastic episode. I was like, I want more of him. But ultimately, it wasn't a sad death like I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, because he made his choice. Like, and eventually Dolores accepted that they made their choice, and that's what they wanted.
Yeah, because to them, this isn't death, right?
Yes.
This is just moving to the next place. It's, again, I spoke a lot earlier in the season how whenever they talked about the Valley Beyond, it sounded a lot like an afterlife.
It did, and I think it's interesting that there's people who believe in the afterlife, and then there's Dolores and Bernard as well, who knows it's fake, like who see it for what it is and see it for, But to them, like they'd believe it, and they're going to live happily forever. And obviously, at the end of the episode, she beams them to where no one's ever going to find them. Like she's like, no, like that world they're in is now hidden, and no one's ever going to get to it. Now that's why I'm saying we might see them someday if like someone does find it in season 5. Like sure.
Yeah, in some capacity, it could come back up. It could. I don't know why, but. I'll give them the reason if where they want to come up
if
with
it
it.
Happens, I mean, not. Yeah. This might be just the happy ending for a couple of them, and that's fine. So, Charlotte, and but Elsie goes to talk to Charlotte, and she's like, "I'll try and smooth things over for you, Bernard." Like. Because at this point he's the last of his kind. Because we have that reveal in the present day stuff with the post 2 week timeline, which we're getting really close to. Because Charlotte says on 12 hours they're going to land, so we know we're linking up with that soon. And Bernard is shot Dolores because we get that tease where she's lying there dead, and then it's like he's like the last of his kind because he actually begs Ford to come back. He tries to bring back Ford because once he sees Elsie
checking his code, being like, "You've got to be here."
It's once he sees Elsie die that he can't handle it. And I love this idea from both characters. I mean, obviously it's sad that Elsie's gone. I liked Elsie, but Elsie all season was worried that Bernard might hurt her. And it was a human being that hurt her. And all season, he didn't want to be with Ford. He didn't want Ford's help. But now in his time of need, he needed the help. He needed someone to guide his hand. And of course, later on, we get the wonderful revelation on it that Ford was truly gone. When he deleted Ford did go. And this was just him imagining it. And it's kind of almost like what Dolores had in season 1, where he realised this was his own voice.
Yeah, no, this was exactly Arnold's theory of consciousness of, oh no, I will be that voice. Because we kept hearing his, the voice for Dolores every so often in her head.
I think the beauty of it is that it's not just that he got to the point with the voice, it's that what led him there was that he felt the pain and the fear that he needed guidance. He feared, which is also, I think, a sign of life. It's a sign of self-awareness, is fear. And then he needed help. And then the realization that help came from himself. Like, all of it is wonderful. And then the sadness that he actually had to erase the memory of going through all this, so that the crew wouldn't wouldn't just read his mind and figure out what he'd done. He couldn't have them do that. So also, I'm very glad that all that stuff in present day did not turn out to be a simulation. I'd have been very upset with that. Very pleased, very pleased. Okay. And it's funny. Obviously, we actually do have Dolores' actual body back at the end, right? Because obviously we've got a host machine in Arnold's house where Ford set up a little base for them.
Yeah.
But It was funny because when it became like Charlotte and it's Dolores inside Charlotte, I went, "Is this why they cast Tessa Thompson in what seemed like such a small role? Because eventually she's going to be the main character." Is that why they
That's
did
what I
this?
thought. I was like, is Tessa Thompson our main character next year?
It doesn't seem like that's the case, but it does seem like we have two Dolores, unless someone else is inside Charlotte now.
Yeah, I'm not sure because Dolores left. We saw when as Hale's body when she got
Yes.
on the boat. We look in the little purse and
Which,
she's
by the
got
way,
5.
Stubbs knows.
Oh, Stubbs totally knows. Yeah,
Stubbs knows, and he's loyal to Ford, and he's like, it's my job to look after the hosts in the park.
yeah. Very, very clear.
Yeah, and then lets her go. Do you know what I love about that is I love that Dolores has to understand that was like an act of kindness, that Ford actually it's expected her to get out. That he wasn't trying to put her down every step of the way. That there are, and I think that's where, even though she's still definitely on the more violent side and the more I'm going to take this world down side, if you will, even she has to acknowledge that there was some human kindness in her creation, both from Arnold and to an extent from Ford now as well.
Yeah. But so when we see her she looks in the purse at the end. There's 5 of the host braids.
Oh, you counted them specifically. Okay,
I
I saw a bunch. Yeah.
It stood out pretty quickly to me. I mean,
Yeah.
5 that I could see, unless there was more buried underneath.
Yeah. So Bernard, obviously.
Yeah.
Maeve for sure. Even though they don't tell us that, I'm pretty sure it's Maeve. One of them.
You think? Okay.
I would be.
I'm not so sure because there's the tease with the technicians that they're gonna.
Oh sure, yeah.
Maeve.
Maybe Maeve will still be the one we have in the park. Okay, that's.
Yeah.
Which might make sense given she's got control over them, and that we can do more with her there than we could outside. That's a possibility. If we still have a park storyline, I'm just thinking it has to be 5, like, important people, right? Important hosts.
You'd think.
Because who else would she bring?
This is it. This is what I've done. This is what I was going. I was like, who could it be? Could one of them, or even more, been backups of herself? Because we see obviously that she has the 2 bodies at the end, assuming that she's in both of them.
Would she need a backup, or could she just copy it once she's out?
I mean, it depends if she's got the. I know she's got the skeleton building machine in the house, but do they have the machine to build, to create the brains?
Well, I would imagine that's just like not something you could just buy at a store necessarily, but you could just get empty ones of them. Like, she'd have an empty one.
Okay.
And just copy it over.
Okay, fair enough, maybe.
Or erase one of the ones she took. That's what one of them were. It was just a one that she could erase and then copy herself onto.
But I honestly don't know who these all are. Like I say, I think Bernard is the easy one. Like, that's 1.
Yeah, that's confirmed, because she's got him there at the end.
So that's 1, but that still leaves 4.
And she didn't bring Teddy. She let Teddy go.
Absolutely.
Well, given the post-credit scene. I'll come back to that thought. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it could be a variety of people, because she does look at Maeve's body at one point towards the end, which is
yeah.
maybe an implication that that's someone she took. It could be her father, Abernathy. Could be one of them.
Yeah.
I think that's possible. I mean, who's to say? Because she was Charlotte for like 12 hours. She could have grabbed
Anything,
whoever she wanted, really. So no, interesting.
Joe, I will say I'm almost a little disappointed that it's not Tessa Thompson as the lead next season.
It'd be a fun switch, wouldn't it?
I was really when that was what they were going for. I was like, yes, I want that. I was a little disappointed when it got to the end. And it was like, okay, she's got her original body.
It would be a shame to lose Evan Rachel Wood, though.
It would. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like it was almost a safer option. The balls to just go, nah, screw it. We're changing.
I think you still see her, like, even if we did switch permanently to her body, I still think we'd see her original self, like, in her head. Whenever there was like anything like that.
Yeah.
When she's talking to herself, maybe it would be the original body.
Yeah,
So on.
So yeah, I think you can still keep her involved in some capacity like that.
No, interesting. No, so much stuff. We had obviously the big action scene. We have to kind of go back because I was actually thinking when she first comes across Man in Black, and she puts that bullet that killed Teddy.
Yeah, which actually did something interesting for me is, I spoke about how, he shot himself in the head. So did that, blow out his brain, so to speak? Is that how you can kill a
Nah, it was
host?
bulletproof.
And yeah, no, a bullet ain't taking those out.
No, it stopped the bullet. It impacted on that thing and was like, nope, that's fine.
Yeah, it just flattened it.
But she puts it, because I was thinking, what are you doing putting that in the gun? I ain't going to do very much.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And it wasn't until he was going to shoot her that I got, oh, I know what it's going to do.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
which first of all, she took like 3 shots like a Terminator and just kept walking. Like her pain's gone.
She
Like,
takes the first one and she turns around and just smiles, and it's terrifying.
yeah,
And then she's like, no, you don't get it. You built us to survive.
yeah. And then he blows off 2 of his fingers because obviously the gun, you know.
In this head, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, damn. And that's why I was like, oh, he's definitely gone. Because, like, he's been shot 5 times, he's lost 2 fingers. What are we doing with him next season? He's going to be like a stump. He's going to be a bloody stump by the end of this finale. But, so she goes
And we pretty much just leave him on the floor for most of the episode now.
Well, that's the thing. He goes into the elevator, and it plays with that he's about to come out the elevator. But then, like, because as Bernard's leaving after he shot Dolores, and then he's not there, and it's like, wait, something fishy's going on here, timeline-wise. What's happening?
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was, and then the episode just kept playing out exactly as it should have, based on what we thought was happening where and when. So I was like, okay, I don't know what happened there. And then we see that he survived, because we get to the tent at the end when she's leaving, and it's like, oh, some of us who survived weren't worthy of it. And do we go to the post-credit scene now? I feel like we're
I
dancing
don't know. Do you want to
around
talk about
it.
anything else first?
I mean, Sizemore had his nice little farewell moment.
It was almost comical in the perfect way.
Yeah.
When he stands up and starts doing the speech and he puts the voice on.
It's like, that's my speech anyway. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's the idea that Maeve's seen... I mean, Felix to an extent already, but certainly now she's seen someone who was originally a dickhead show kindness. She's seen... If anything, like when she, like, if she ever gets out, if she is out already, she's seen someone change. So maybe that adds more to the debate. That adds more to the... No, humans can change.
Yeah.
I've seen it, like... So... I think that's interesting. They change based... And I think that maybe it comes down to is, like, you can either fight them or you can try and, like, change them by example or change them... Because that's what changes people. It's going through an experience, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what Ford's whole thing was. It was have them go through all this for the experience so that when they eventually do awaken, it'll be... they'll have the knowledge to fight back with. They'll have the knowledge to survive. Because that's the other thing that comes up is the idea that human beings... Our key instinct is survival, but by the end, so is Dolores. Like that, her whole thing is I survive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's it's almost more interesting than the X-Men because ultimately her goal is to kind of just become human, even though she sees herself as different.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting, when her and Man in Black meet again for the first time, and she talk about what he did last episode and where he is. And he's like, and she mentions Teddy, and he says, we're more alike than I thought.
Everything we said last week about...
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
which is why I laughed. And she was like, no, we're nothing alike. And I was like, don't kid yourself.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating stuff. Yeah, I did notice, though, that Tessa Thompson, I don't know if like she didn't want to do nudity, but like this is the first time I felt like they've hidden the nudity.
No, I agree, because you get some behind shots, so you
Yeah.
get your body double. And then in the front, it's like, okay, here's just all the shadow and just
Yeah.
a face. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it felt, and it wouldn't bother me normally. It was just weird because every other time they've not, they've not shied away from it.
I think that's the problem. It's like, no, I get it. You don't want to show it, fair enough. But it's noticeable when it's, if this was the first time that we were getting, a nude scene here, then I wouldn't question it. But because the show has been so consistent in everyone being just, yeah, here you go. It feels a little distracting, I guess.
Do you know what they should have done? They should have had her just be her head, and then the rest of the body was still just the underneath, like, white skeleton stuff, and then like have her go back to be finished afterwards. That'd have fixed it.
Yeah, it just wasn't finished yet.
Yeah, there you go. You could have done that, and that would have been not weird at all. I mean, I'd have still maybe have a guessed, or maybe it's because she didn't want to do the nudity, and that's fine. But it wouldn't have taken me out at the moment because it would have been.
It was
natural.
actually a little distracting, wasn't it?
Yeah. I know that's weird to say. It was distracting that we didn't see the nudity, but in this show it kind of is now at this point.
Well, no, that's it. It's not even like, oh yeah, we want to see it. We want to see her. It's like, no, it's just it feels out of place to hide one of the hosts.
Yeah, especially since most of the other main cast members who are, Thandie Newton's been nude.
Yeah.
Obviously, Evan Rachel Wood has been nude. We've seen it with a lot of the main cast members up until this point.
Yeah.
So it felt weird not to
It did.
see it.
Yeah.
I'm almost worried that there was too much in this episode that I'm going to forget key things that I wanted to talk about as I was.
I'm gonna say this was a long episode.
It was.
There was just so much in it.
It was packed. So just to where we end. So Dolores gets off the mainland, and I actually thought it was done at one point. It was going to cut to credits, and then it came back up, and it was Bernard waking up again, like we've seen inside the cradle. But this time it wasn't, in that aspect ratio. It was like, it's like, and he's like, when are we? Is this now?
Is this now? And and that's something that was. He said a lot throughout the episode. We got him saying that 3 or 4 times throughout the episode, and it just put me on edge. I'm like, I don't trust this. As much as they're presenting to me, this is the timeline. Every time he says that, I'm like, I don't.
Well, that was why that Man in
showing.
Black in the elevator thing was weird. I was like, is this Bernard not from when we think this Bernard is now?
Right. Yeah.
And it turned out that wasn't the case necessarily, but he wakes up, and again, it feels very bookended because we got the introduction to that house in episode 1.
Yes.
I think. Maybe it was the start of episode 2. Maybe the start of episode 2, actually.
Might have been episode 2, because we started episode 1 with the Dolores and Bernard fidelity test.
But it feels very full circle to come back to that here at the end of the episode.
It does.
And I love that we end, before the credits anyway, we end with Bernard smiling a little bit. He's happy because he sees the world. He sees the real world.
I love that we don't even see it. He just goes up to the door, he opens it smiles.
Yeah, I almost thought, because obviously we play with timelines, I almost thought we get some of Dolores' first moments in the world when she lands, when she sees the city again, when I hope we get some of that next season in flashback form at some point, because obviously hosts with their memories that are very credits roll, and I'm like, oh, that was very neat. That was very they're in the real world. I love the idea that Dolores accepts that we're probably going to hate each other, we're going to be at ends, but we need each other to evolve. We might both die, but our race will advance because of
and I'm
our
like,
experience.
okay, I get it. Season 3 is the 2 of them duking it out on the mainland.
Yes, and who knows they're there? In how covert what are they up to in this mainland? What are they doing?
But I'm like, okay, I get an idea of where this is going. This was very neat as an ending, but it's like, okay, I know where we're going.
Does she get a job? Does she try to infiltrate a big company? I mean, I guess they still have Charlotte, who they can use to have infiltrate Delos, but what does, regular body Dolores do? What does Bernard do?
It's funny how I said a lot how, do they, infiltrate heads of companies? Yeah, that was when I was, theorizing about, replacing people with hosts. I was like, do they do that? And well, I mean, they kind of are. They're just
Charlotte.
They're right up at the head of Delos, pretty much.
They got Charlotte, but what are they doing otherwise? Presumably she'll be doing stuff within the company, but otherwise, what is the plan from Dolores? What is the plan from Bernard? Is he more forward thinking? Is he less reactionary and more proactive this next season? What is happening? And if Maeve is out there, what's she doing? If she's still in the park, what's the story in the park? What is Maeve doing with Felix and the hosts that are around there now? And Stubbs, who all of a sudden seems like a much more important character. All this stuff.
No, I just thought, on replacing people, those host brains she took. I mean, she took them from the Forge, where they had, potentially from the Forge, every guest ever, right?
Potentially it was all a host. Potentially it was people from the Forge.
Right, but potentially from the Forge. So maybe it was people that she wants to, replace for whatever reason.
No, but why would she need the brains for that?
So she can do what she did with Bernard, where she can take the person and tweak them.
Okay, tweak them, all right. Because with Charlotte, she didn't need Charlotte's brain. She just had a Charlotte body and put herself in it.
No, I'm thinking so she can tweak them and have a more malleable version, but of a person in a high position.
Did she take William? Do we get young William in the real world in present day? Because it's a host that's been recreated. I don't know. Would she want that?
I don't know, but it'd be fascinating, wouldn't it?
It would be fascinating. Lots of potential. So yeah, everything was neat, everything was making sense, understood everything, and then the post-credits scene happens where we cut to Man in Black in the elevator going down, and I'm like, oh, what's this going to do? Like, what? Well, even before the door opened, I was like, where's this going? What's
Yeah,
happening?
I was like, is this going to be like a really 20-second quick tease, or is this going to be a?
It was, it was a proper like 3-4 minute scene.
It was, yeah,
it was
but
lengthy.
at first I was like, is this just going to be a little quick
Yeah,
tease,
because
and
I
then
almost
just
thought
kept
when
going?
the door opened and we see what we see, I thought, oh, we'll cut there. It's going to be a
Yeah,
cut now. But we got a little bit more. Door opens and it appears to be the forge, but time has passed. This
it's
is
dilapidated.
yeah, this is decade later, maybe more.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say because obviously the flooding could have made it look this bad, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say, but there's holes, there's daylight coming in, seemingly, from what I remember.
Yeah,
So that implies that some stuff's eroded outside, and there's so. And Emily's standing there, looking very different, looking very neat, clean cut.
yeah,
And she says, I can't remember the exact phrase, but she calls him William.
yes,
That's a
she
key
does.
point. She calls him William. Don't call him Dad. Calls him William. And
So you're like, okay, who is this
and,
immediately?
and he's still got his injury, and he's still limping forward, and he's like, what the hell's happening? And he's like, I knew it. He's immediately thinking, oh, I knew it. That was a host. I didn't kill my daughter. That was a host. That's his first thought. And I'm like, host, okay.
Crossed out my mind too. I'm sure maybe
Yeah,
it
yeah,
did
oh
you.
yeah. Where are we going with this? What's happening? And she's like, this is what you built. This is your part. And she leads him in, and it's the same little like apartment, the fake apartment that Delos was in. And he sits down, and obviously we end the scene with her saying, we to ask some questions for testing. Is it testing what? Fidelity. That's how we end.
Yeah, we get up to it as well. She's like, do you know where you are? He's like, I'm in my past. It's like, do you know how long you've been here? And he just stops. He's like, I don't know.
Now, of course, we understand at the very least that at some point in the timeline, this is a host of William being tested, right? That much is
Yes,
clear.
absolutely.
But there's a lot more that doesn't that needs to be explained here. One, how far in this is the future? Is this a host after he dies? Is the one we've had the whole time still the real person, and this is in the future trying to make him after he dies? Because what she says here kind of implies that he keeps making the same choices, and the loop that she's referring to is his time in the park.
Yeah.
Like everything we've seen with him in the park.
How we got shown earlier on when we were in the forge that for Jim Delos the scene with Logan, that was the moment he kept coming back to, and it seems that maybe for Man in Black it is this final scene with Dolores and Bernard, right? That's where he keeps ending.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like simulating everything up until that point. And I don't think that everything we've seen elsewhere on the season and the show has been all inside the simulation. But I do think that going forward with Man in Black, we'll get like, I don't know if we'll get other versions of it, or we'll get like.
It makes me question how much of the Man in Black stuff this season has been just in that loop, and how much of it have we been seeing as his looped version.
Yeah, I don't think anything where he's interacting with, like, say, Bernard and Dolores, so far at least. I think
No.
their stories are their stories, and that's not been interfered with, like, his loop, if you will. This is the original version.
Agreed.
But it does mean that if this host in the future, I also got the impression that this is a successful transfer. That unlike Delos, he doesn't go crazy in the same way. Like he at least it's to the extent where he's played out this entirely. Because it's worth mentioning, this is not a different aspect ratio.
It's not, no.
No, they seem to be playing this at least enough that it's in a host body in the real world,
Yeah.
right? And obviously,
Yeah.
I mean, let's note the fact that Dolores notices that he's seen if he's a host. Like, she understands what he's doing.
You're questioning reality, which I thought was interesting. I'm going, okay, so they checked if he was a host. Last episode, we saw them register that
Yes.
he wasn't. But we saw them check Charlotte's body at the end here before she got on the boat. One of them put the thing up to her neck and scanned, and well, obviously nothing flagged. So, how are they fooling that?
I wonder if it's less like a physical test then, and it's more I mean, maybe the people testing them with the thing don't know this, but it actually tests for like knowledge or self awareness or understanding. So it's
Yeah,
actually tricking them because that they.
maybe. I guess if I really want a simpler explanation is Stubbs knows and kind of deleted her from the records, right? Put it in so that she'll scan as human.
Or
If
maybe
he
it
could
doesn't.
do that.
Or maybe it doesn't test if they're a host. Maybe if it just checks if they're on file. And because this body was created like individually, like with Ford's personal thing, it just doesn't
Yeah,
show up.
maybe. Maybe that would explain why Bernard could get scanned as well, I suppose.
Yeah, because it just checks like a barcode, but they don't have barcode. They're off the books, so they're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
showing
could
up.
be.
Could be like that.
But I just thought it was interesting when I noticed them scanning her and it didn't flag.
No, it didn't. So, yeah, like, and because it opens all these questions of like, okay, again, I'm assuming that everything we've seen in the show has been true up until this point, especially since that we're now in the future, seemingly in this post
Yeah,
credit scene.
she says it's been a long time, longer than we expected.
Yes. So you assume that she is a host as well because she looks the same age.
Yeah, I would imagine that maybe at some point he built her as he doesn't remember obviously because this is going
Yeah.
through the loop, but he has built her as a host to be the caretaker and continue the testing.
Very possibly, yeah.
Assuming he's still going for that, immortal life thing.
Yeah, and obviously the dark irony here for him is that she asks him like, what have you been looking for? And he's like, proof that like I'm not under control. Proof that like I make my own choices.
Yeah.
What was the exact phrase? I'm not
I
designed.
think it was proof that no computer or system can tell me who I am.
There you go. Yeah. But she points out, no, you always make the same choices. And again, it's going back to this idea of the episode's presenting that maybe that means that there's no such thing really as free will. You'll always be the same. And I think me, as someone who has watched a lot of sci-fi with robots becoming human beings, ultimately it's like, the point is that humanity exists in both. Once you get to a point where you can understand these things, you're just both human, right? Or at least, in the sense that both are lives willing to be saved, that are worth saving and worth preserving.
Yeah.
It's if you kill a robot that's self-aware, it's still murder. I guess is what I'm saying. As much as a lot of people say, no, they're just robots. And it's like, and then you get into this weird like tech racism and all sorts.
Which might be where this show is going.
It
given that
might
we're
be
on the mainland now.
Yeah, it could go that way. I would wonder if like maybe season 3 like no one knows about them, but then like season 4 the world does know about them and it's a bigger problem, and then it's like, okay, what do they want to do about it?
Yeah, I can see that. Like I said, I think season 3 shady undercover,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And season 4, maybe season 5, if you want to hold it, is okay out in the open. This is it.
Season 5 is when it's okay, we're done fighting. Let's go to the diplomatic table and start negotiating terms. We'll recognise you as a people. Let's start talking.
Yeah.
Very possibly. And even just that small moment where Bernard sees the photo of Arnold and his son, and I was thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, if he lived, if the son lived, he'd be like 40 or something like that now.
Yeah.
Because it's been 30 years since the park, so he was about 10 or something, maybe a little less than that.
Give or take.
So yeah, I just thought that was interesting to think about. But no. But I do love the idea that Dolores wanted to bring him back, and that she understood that she needed him as well, and that she created him, and she has memory of that, and she understands that she almost can see herself in the same way that the same way that Arnold created her. She understands what that feels like and can sympathize with it to an extent, and I think that's interesting.
Yeah, a part of it might even be just, no, this is her creation and she just doesn't want to let it go. In the same way that, like you say, Arnold, he wants the host to be better. Maybe she kind of wants him to be better in some ways.
Yeah. Now, here's the interesting thing, though. Just to go back to the Man in Black. So, the time jump makes sense from Man in Black's perspective. If he's now remembering the events as a host, it would be a time jump to him where he opens the elevator door and all the shit, I'm in present time now, because he was remembering before and now he's here. Or he was up in the land of the park acting out everything. Because kind of like how in season 1 Dolores actually went to locations and remembered things, like in each place. Like he was up there doing that essentially. and then he came down here, and that explains the time jump. That does not explain that why in the the actual real timeline he disappeared out the elevator.
My assumption is maybe in the real maybe that little scene that we saw, because he's on his own at that point.
He never went down the elevator.
He never went down the
okay.
elevator. He stayed up there, and he got found by all the security people, because obviously we know he gets found.
Yeah, and then there's those shadier ideas you can think of, like, did he actually die there? And the one that they think is alive at the end is
a copy.
Is a copy that I don't know if like Dolores did
it's
that.
possible.
Or...
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like she did in the narration.
It's
admittedly,
possible, but unlikely, I think.
Yeah. I'm still kind of believing that he really killed his daughter, though. Right now, I see no reason to think that she.
No, I think so. I think that's why. I mentioned how maybe he created this host version. I think that part of that is the guilt of, I've got to try and replace her because I took her away.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's highly likely. So. Yeah, but that's floored me there. Everything was all neat, and then it's like, oh.
By the way,
you like timelines on this show? Here's a new timeline you've not went to. This is in the future. This is like 30 years in the future now, sons. Get it.
Yeah.
And it could be. I mean, we don't know how long it is in the future, but
it could be 100 years in the future for all we know.
It could be. I'm guessing 30. I'm going with Back to the Future rules just to make it nice and neat. Like, we've always talked about 30 years in the past.
30, so yeah, another 30. No, it makes sense.
Yeah, I could see it being that. I mean, it may not be, but it's just a guess at this point. But yeah, I mean, I'm still screwed for who the other brains are that she's taken with her. I don't know. Like,
I mean, maybe one is William, like we said, and that's how we get back to this host version later.
I don't think one will be Logan because there wasn't a real Logan to take. Because
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it wasn't like a real copy of him.
But I mean, if we go with Bernard and William, that still leaves 3 at least. That I counted.
I mean, Maeve's a possibility. I mean,
it is a possibility. I'm not sold on it, but it's possible.
No, I agree with the plot reasons that say why she wouldn't be, but I can't think of enough that would give me another proper main character to take.
No, I agree.
Although some of them could be red herrings in that sense. You never know, maybe one could be Clementine.
Yeah,
I'd say one could be Ford, but I don't think he was in the Forge because he was separate, and that's why Bernard had to go and get him from...
No, I agree. I think he kept himself offline, so to speak. He wanted to be out of that system.
Yeah, he wasn't in the Forge, he liked being in the Cradle.
Yeah, he liked being in his own little world.
Yeah.
Because he's an egotistical god complex.
Yeah. We didn't even mention the scenes with Delos and inside the Forge, like all the simulations of him making all the choices and shooting people and being kind of dark, and it's like, a bit of William in you. I know you're not actually related by blood, but you'd fool me.
Yeah. You can see where he learnt it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because now I'm thinking of Man in Black's arc, like, if he sort of almost goes through the self-realization that Dolores did, but as someone who actually used to be human and actually did have these experiences.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating idea.
It is. And ultimately that has always been his end game, right? That has been his plan, to be able to, singularity, put himself in the body and live as himself in this body.
But that potentially has turned out to be its own punishment.
Yeah. That's pretty fascinating.
That's fascinating. It's bringing a lot of big things in here. It's properly advancing the sci-fi stuff forward. I don't like. I'm still trying to think of who the other host could be that she's taking with her. But then again, it could be real people. So who?
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. But
who knows? I mean, she's never really met Elsie, but
yeah, I don't know. Again,
she worked with Angela a lot. Maybe Angela could have brought Angela.
Yeah, I mean that one could be.
Could have brought Angela.
Yeah, the problem is a lot of them are just like, but why, right?
Yeah, why them specifically? I think Abernathy's probably a good guess though.
Yeah, no, I feel like that makes sense.
I can see that. So I mean, if we include Maeve, we've kind of gotten to about 4. So I mean.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I'm sure they'll have some surprises for us. I mean, it could always be like someone we've not even met before, and we'll get like flashbacks as to why this 5th one's relevant, why this 5th one's important.
And you could, have the idea again. In the same way they kind of swerved us here at the end is they don't have to tell us straight away
Oh, they
that they're a
don't.
host.
They could be someone in a body, and we think it's that person, but it turns out the person inside the host the entire time was.
Yeah. I know they pulled us on us in this episode, but I'm still willing to bet they do it again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of why I don't think that Man in Black has been a host up until this point. At least, I mean, maybe if some of these scenes that he's been in have been memories, then sure, technically he's a host in those scenes. But I think this has been him as alive up until this point with
No, I
Dolores,
agree.
with Bernard.
I think the core things that we've seen are the journey he originally took. So, as much as from his perspective he's in the future and reliving it, for all intents and purposes, it was when he was alive. But
Yeah,
but given that maybe this end scene with the where before when he goes down to the elevator and it got a little bit murky in the timeline, I would now like to go back and rewatch the season and see if there are any other points that don't quite line up
it makes me
where he's not interacting with the main group as much.
Yeah. Also, I liked how he meets Bernard, and Dolores is just like, "You've been looking for him like for years, and you don't even recognize him."
Yeah, and it's like, must be Arnold.
Yeah, I like that. I wonder even if like his obsession with the maze, like, no, I mean I think that really happened. I'm just thinking if he's looping and there's like more elements to it because he's looping.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just wondering if there's more to it. I do wonder if going back and watching seasons 1 and 2 again with this knowledge that eventually he's going to be a host, and that some of what we're seeing could be him remembering these real events instead of just playing them out live. And it ultimately may not matter. It may not even matter going forward.
It's with Dolores last season, a lot of it, even though it was her remembering, we still just see it play out as it happened.
Yeah, it's playback. I think maybe what I would say is that maybe none of it has been memories, and in the sense that the show's not been telling it from that perspective. But what happened here at the end, where it shifted timeline, it was almost them unlocking the door that's saying, now we can play with this jump
Quite
now.
possibly, yeah.
Up until now, there's been enough confusing things going on, we've not been doing it. But now this door is open, and now he'll be remembering things from the future. Now we'll see him in the future, and back and forth. And what is of the park? Is it all like derelict now, and it's just like this one shady experiment about him that's going on? Is there more things? Is this just the secret part of the park? The rest of it's still functioning and doing things.
Again, could be because this is this is the forge. Where we know where this is. It's kind of out of the way anyway.
And it makes me wonder though, like if he goes back into the park in this future timeline. Do we see what's become of it if whatever Dolores and Bernard and maybe Maeve have done?
Get some hints.
Over the past 30 years.
What's going to come down?
And it makes me wonder: is that actually kind of the main focus next season? Is almost like we'll see a lot of what happens with Bernard and all that, but the actual main focus almost will be, given that how we had the 30-year jump in season 1 where there's the two timelines. Is it like half of it is after they leave the park, and the other half is in this future where Man in Black is?
And see the future of the park.
And because they're hosts, we can still have the same actors playing the same characters, and potentially, I don't know, possibilities. I can see them being inventive.
Yeah, this really leaves it open in ways that I just didn't expect.
And I just want to see the tragic beauty of Bernard truly becoming self-aware, finding his own voice, and then choosing to give that up because he knows he has to make the plan work.
Yeah, it's really sad.
There's a real sad beauty in that. It's nice. That's nice.
There is, and you have Maeve's daughter recognize her at the end.
Yep.
And remember those previous experiences with her.
Yeah, but she gets to live forever in the valley beyond. She's in there now, with her new mother. Ah, geez, this episode did a lot of things. It was very focused. There was not a whole lot of jumping. The only jumping around in the episode before we got to the end was occasionally when Bernard was like flickering through, like, and he was remembering what he was.
It was
doing.
We were getting bits of the interrogation and then flicking to the 12 hours before, give or take, right? I think the first half of the episode did it quite a bit, jumping between him with Dolores and then him with Hale and Strand.
Yeah, I feel like once it got to people going towards the valley, though, that stuff all played out pretty linear. It was all nice and straightforward.
It did. We got a bit, again, inside the forge where he's looking down at Dolores's body, and we got a little bit of flickering again.
Yeah.
It did it a bit, but it wasn't
Well,
too
inside
much.
the Forge building, inside the Forge is different. Just to
Just-
clarify,
yes, fair point.
it's inside the Forge is the giant library with all the people who
Yes.
are essentially boiled down to a single book because all they are is an algorithm. It's not a lot of data. It's actually quite simple. This is the core code, and then everything just kind of happens from there,
Yeah, yeah.
which is interesting. It's also interesting.
It is, and I like the reason that Delos felt was they're overcomplicating it. They just need to and I think it works with the host as well. Is ultimately it was keeping them simple that led to a lot of them is keep it simple and let them just develop.
Yeah, teach them.
Yeah,
Be a parent to them. Don't be a designer. Get them to the point, and then just teach them like a person.
right. But they didn't overcomplicate it to begin with. They started pretty simple and then developed out from there, and then and naturally grew to where they are now, of course. Whereas with that, they're just going no all the way, all the really complicated stuff all at once.
Yeah, I really like the scene with the Delos Logan scene. His life was defined by this moment. Scene. I like the line of dialogue specifically, where he's saying I need help, Dad, and he's like, no, go and get clean. You're a junkie. Go get clean. Come back, and then we can talk. And he's like, oh, you've said that before, and I said to you, I got clean, and I came back. I was clean, and you said, oh, it won't last. Yeah. So it didn't last. So I was right. So it was this self-fulfilling thing. It kind of ties into the theme of the episode of, you keep making the same choice. Like, he doesn't even give him a chance because he believes it's going to end. And it does end, but would it have ended had he stepped in and helped? That's a big question. But the line that I loved here is he compares, like, he complains about how he taught him to swim. He's like, oh, you threw me underwater and told me not to come up until I touched the bottom. And he's like, oh, that's how my dad taught me to swim, so that's how again, self-fulfilling. It keeps happening. And as he's walking away, he's like, hey, Dad, I'm at the bottom. I can see it. Do you want to know what it looks like? So
yeah.
Again, the idea that if this show is entirely about how to teach a new individual, about how to teach a new race, teach a new intelligence, how to grow, Delos is the worst possible example of how you take fathering lessons from, I guess.
No, I mean you could essentially look at the show and say it's about parenthood.
Yes.
And it's about how to raise someone, and you can't force through them, and you have to learn from mistakes to be a better parent, right?
Yes, and I think you could argue that Delos' method for the swimming doesn't really line up with either Ford or Bernard. Maybe more towards Ford, because he believes he needs the experience, but it still wasn't a case of pushing him into the deep end. That was a slow, gradual over years of experience.
Yeah, definitely.
So no, it's yeah. I mean, we may be done with Ford now. Like we said that in the last season, but this does feel like a.
No, I think we are now. I think Bernard no longer needs him.
Yes.
And I think we confirm. No, he was purged. He is gone from that system. He was gone from Cradle was destroyed. So again, unless there's some remnants of him inside Maeve, which I don't think there is.
Yeah,
but I think that's the only possibility to get him back now. Like that, I will find. That I will take and go. Yeah, okay, that's potentially there.
This truly feels at the end of the first act of the show.
Yeah,
1 and 2 feel like they go together as a pair as the first chunk, the first act.
Well, no, it is interesting because obviously at the end of season 1 they referred to that as like a prologue, and I still agree with that. That's a prologue, and this is Act 1.
Oh, sure, you can if you want to look at it that way, sure. But does that mean it's Act 1, 2, 3, and an epilogue, Season 5?
Oh, potentially. That would be interesting.
Possibly, yeah. Or you could just stop being pretentious and call it a 5-act story, I suppose, at that point.
I mean, you could. I think it depends, in the grand scheme of it, even though Season 1 lasts the same length of runtime as Season 2, functionally in the story, is it an Act 1 or is it just, okay, no, here's the opening tease, right?
Sure, yeah. If we're going to look at the season as a whole and compare it to Season 1, which was better, so on, it's a tough question. I think Season 1 is more consistent and the pacing overall is a better season.
I agree with that, yeah.
I think Season 2, though, between the Phoenix episode, or the Sphinx episode, rather, with Delos being tested, the Akishta episode, and then this finale, those might be the 3 best episodes of the show.
Yeah.
These are all like the high points,
Yeah,
but the season as a whole was a little bit more uneven. I think Dolores didn't actually have enough plot for the duration of her time in the season.
Yeah, no, the best Dolores stuff was far and away this episode.
And the first and last episode, everything in between was kind of just, she has to get to this place.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with that. I think though as well, this season has the benefit of just, taking established ideas. So the Shogun World episode where we played with all the stuff from season 1 and just redid it, right? We remade it for that, and it works so well, but it only works because of the other stuff though. So it's kind of hard to say it's better necessarily.
Yeah. I actually don't know which one I'd say is better overall. I don't think I can say that right now.
They're quite different, aren't they?
I need time to process. But I'll say they both have their strengths and weaknesses.
They do. I think season 1 stacks up better. If you just want, as a complete story, season 1 stacks up better. Even though this at the end felt like, barring the final scene, could have been an ending to the show theoretically.
I did think this season had more emotion in it, though. There was a lot more human emotion in this season. And you could argue that that's like the hosts are becoming more human, so they're feeling more emotion as we go.
So, yeah, it's why season 1 is a bit more detached.
But colder, yeah.
Yeah.
But hey. So anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
No, I thought it was a pretty great, fantastic episode way to end the season.
Yeah. Akichi gets the girl. He's with his loved one.
Yeah,
that he wanted to be with, and I love actually like him getting shot just before he goes through. But once he goes through, the digital version's fine.
Because you get that, you get that shot of him falling off the cliff, and you worry for a second that he didn't make it.
Yeah, it was a genius little moment. No, it's good. So but we definitely lost a few people this episode. Some hosts, of course, will come back, but some I don't think necessarily will. At least not. If we do end up with Maeve staying in the park, then I could see like other characters like maybe Hector and Armistice kind of still being there too. Yeah,
but maybe not all of them.
Yeah, but Sizemore, unless we get like a copy of him, is gone.
Yeah, I think Sizemore's gone. I think Armistice could go, and we could just keep the Japanese one.
Sure.
Just to pare it down a little, so because they obviously they're the same character for all intents and purposes. They fill the same role.
Yeah, I think Teddy's gone.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I have no questions on him, but
I think that's really good though. After the way he went out last episode, I think that's it. You don't need any more from him.
Yeah, and we have such a big cast that it makes sense to get rid of a couple.
And and of course, with us going out to the mainland, we'll have a bunch of new characters that they're going to be interacting with.
There's like an end of an episode early next season. Have like the real Emily, like revealing that the one we saw was a host, that the real Emily appears.
You could do, yeah, because like I mentioned, we didn't see that confirmation of.
We didn't. We definitely didn't. I mean, I was convinced it was really her. I'm still kind of convinced.
No, I think it's more likely. I agree.
Yeah, if they want to swerve us though, I do like the idea of Dolores. Emily not knowing who she is, like Dolores befriending her and trying to like form a bond with her and understand her.
Yeah.
That could be something that would be fun to explore. But no, and we have Infiltrator Charlotte. And is it still Dolores that's inside Charlotte, or is there someone else inside there?
Yeah, and this begs the question. Okay, if it is two versions of Dolores, at what point do they become different people? Because they're going to have different experiences from here on out.
Which will prove that people change.
Yeah,
it'll prove free will.
I think that's going to be fascinating. Does one of them swap sides essentially?
Yeah. Or is there someone else in there that is? I don't know,
it could have just taken out the pod and popped in a new one, right? Just put the pod back in her new body, original body.
No, it's interesting. But yeah, so. No, that's Westworld Season 2. That is the finale. Of course, it was a delightful journey of theorising and hopefully figuring some stuff out. And there's no doubt in my mind that we forgot some moments that were probably worth talking about, but this was so full. It was a long episode, very densely packed. And naturally, how a lot of this stuff ended is what really stuck with us in our minds, because that's where we're kind of theorising, thinking.
Look forward to a season 3.
So season 3, which obviously has been renewed already, That if we go with the same gap between season 1 and 2, we can expect season 3 about September, October next year.
Yeah, I'd think between September and November as a ballpark range.
Which is interesting because that would put it back to roughly where season 1 was in
Season one, I
2016.
checked actually before we started recording this. I was talking to a friend of mine who was like, "Oh, do we know when the next season is?" And I was going through this, and I double checked the dates. Season 1 started at the start of October and finished early December. And this
Sure.
then started April, so almost exactly 18 months.
I could have sworn season 1 started in September.
No, it was October. I checked just before.
I'm checking. I'm checking.
All right.
I'm checking.
Okay, there we go.
I'm checking.
I'm fine for you to be proved wrong.
I'm corroborating this data.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was like October 3rd or something like that. Maybe October 4th. Pretty early October.
It's the second, you bastard.
There we go.
I could have sworn it was September. I'd have put money on it.
Well, you would have lost.
I'm glad I didn't know. It's
I will
interesting.
take the smugness of just being right one last time.
The seasons officially have titles now.
Oh, do they?
Season 1 is called The Maze. Season 2 is called The Door.
Oh, I like this. I realize. When they come out with season 3, they do the reveal trailer, right?
Yes.
I want them to give me the title. I want the subtitle. I want to go into the subtitle going, what does this mean?
They didn't do it with season 2, so I don't think they will with season 3. But it'll be something that maybe will become more clear. Because I don't think we would have called this The Door until the finale. I don't think we would have maybe guessed that.
But we'd have been, all season would have been going, what's the door? I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know, because they have been, a lot of this season going, oh no, there's a door to another world.
Well, sure. I don't think I think The Maze, if they told us there was a name for season 1, we could have guessed The Maze pretty early on in season 1.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was such a recurring, specific image. Whereas, if they said, what's the title for this one, I don't think, we would have probably been like, oh, The Valley Beyond. Or I think we would have been guessing other things.
Well, yeah, but the door is essentially the Valley Beyond, so. Semantics.
I don't think we'd have guessed The Door.
No, I wouldn't have guessed it, but
Yeah.
I think if they told me that was it beforehand, I'd have been looking closer.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. If they told us The Door beforehand, we would have clocked that that's what The Door was earlier. Yes, but I don't think you would have guessed it was going to be called The Door based just on.
No,
what was
but I
in the
do like.
season.
I like when when I get See, I'm annoyed that this is now because there's already a Blu-ray for season 1 that doesn't have Westworld: The Maze, so I have to now wait until the end and get a box set which has them all with the individual.
But season
titles.
2 might not have the name on it either. They might just not have the names on the boxes.
No, I know, but this is why I need to wait for a box set at the end for them to do a release with a nice box art with the titles on.
Or not even just the titles. Like the cover will be a maze, and then season 2 will be a door, and then season 3 will be.
Yeah, I need it.
Season 3 will be.
Don't
a cabbage.
even guess.
It's a cabbage. Season 3 is the cabbage. I'm calling it now.
I can't dispute that. I mean, it's probably not like, probability-wise, you're almost certainly wrong. But you might not be. There's a chance, is what I'm saying.
Season 3 is the White Lodge.
Oh, God.
It's going to cross over with Twin Peaks, mark my words.
That's the last thing this show needs. More confusing elements.
Hey. We ended a certain show with, what year is it? And we ended this with, is this now? I'm just saying.
Oh, you're not wrong, but we don't need more timeline confusion.
We don't, no, we do not. We have a new timeline to deal with. I appreciate the tease for next season, though. It's left us bubbling. It's left us, next year. And it should be next year, because this is early in the year, comparatively speaking.
Yeah, barring any production delays.
Yeah, so hopefully we should have season 3 sometime fall next year. It does mean that season 4 will be kind of it'll skip 2019. Not 20. It'll skip 2020.
Yeah.
If it keeps the same schedule. Who knows though? This one had some delays here or there though, so maybe we'll get it a little bit quicker.
It did because we know we had some like, actor injuries here or there that put some delays
We had
in.
the fires in California, I think, delayed
Yeah.
some production. Well, I mean, I think it was like a week or whatever, but still,
But they add up.
yeah. So hey, that's the Westworld season 2 finale. Let us know what you think of this one in the comments below. Do give us your own thoughts and theories, especially on that post-credit sequence, and what's going on there. Thematically, it all makes sense to me, but it's the question of, okay, what are we doing with this now?
Yeah.
If you know, like, when did he die? When did we start becoming a host? Or has there been a host for a while, even while he's still alive? Like, did they try starting it even before?
Yeah.
Like, you know, questions. But hey, so yeah, let us know. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/MaileFuzzTV. Handy to go over there anyway for all the links to all the various shows, all the various audio feeds. But you can support us over there to keep the lights on. But of course, you can also support us by liking, subscribing, all the usual stuff, sharing us around and all that and whatnot, watching the ads on YouTube. But that is us. So thank you once again. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. You can get me at Wibble89, get Connor at ConnorRyan94. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Is this vanilla?